Hi everyone. So in this video here, I'm going to be doing a tier list on based on my opinion, who I think are the best gods and who are the worst gods in the game right now. Note that things are still changing, and I don't actually have as many games as a lot of players right now. So I have about between 30 to 40 games on the ladder. But based on discussions I've had with my friends who are all top players, and based on my own games, I'm going to do what I think is the most popular opinion in terms of the weakest and the strongest gods. Um, Note that whenever an RTS game is newly released, aggressive gods are usually at the top. I remember those who played Age of Empires 4 can remember that, French were dominating at the beginning of the game and Mongols were dominating at the beginning of the game. It's usually normal that the aggressive gods are coming out on top when things are not truly figured out yet, because it's a lot easier to be aggressive than be defensive, in my opinion. So that's why I feel like the gods you're going to see right now are mostly the aggressive gods at the top and the defensive gods at the bottom. Coming in at first place, I think it's going to be Hades. Let's start with who I think is second place, which is Set. I think Set is second place because his bonuses allow him to take the entire map, give him full map control, allows him to do what he wants, and he doesn't have to really be worried about what the opponent is going to do. Primarily his bonus of being able to convert animals all over the map. So not only could these animals be used for aggression, but they can also be used later on to eat. So that he can get free food from these animals that he converts. So let's just say he converts an elephant. The elephant is used to pressure his opponent at the beginning of the game. Once the pressure is done and he's done what he has to do, he brings that elephant back to his second town center, just deletes it, and then he can use it as food. So he has a lot of versatility in that regard. The second thing is, right now he has one of the most busted minor gods in the game, which is Anubis. So Anubis gives him the Anubite, which is a great unit, but I don't think it's anything special. But he also has Plague of Serpents, the god power, which is a free win on almost any water map. It gives you 16 serpents. You can use them on land and you can use them on water, and it's just a pain in the ass to deal with. This allows him to pretty much win almost all feudal warfare. So that's why Set is there. He also has access to Thoth. When Thoth gives him Meteor, and Meteor is, in my opinion, probably the most busted H4 god power in the game right now too. He also gets Scorpions, which I don't think are busted, but are very, very good. And yeah, so I think that essentially he's just a very well-rounded, very aggressive god. The only issue is, I think once the broken stuff that he has is adjusted, I don't really think he has that much more. I don't think his units are exceptional compared to Greek especially, which brings me into first place, which is Hades. So unlike Set, Hades doesn't actually have to abuse realistically anything. He has things that he can abuse, but he doesn't have to abuse them. He's good in every single phase of the game. He's good in the early game, he's good in the mid game, and he's good in the late game. What allows him to be good in the early game is his myth units get A, 20% extra hit points on them. B, he gets shade, so every time he loses a unit, there's a potential that comes back as a shade and helps fight for him. And at the same time, he gets access to Athena, which gives him restoration, so he's allowed to be aggressive all over the map. Not only that, late game Hades is just really insane too, because he has access to the Toxote, which are the best archers in the game. And on top of that, Hades gets bonuses on his archers, right? So he gets extra range on his archers, and he gets ballistics for free, and he gets burning pitch for free. So he can hit some really great timings. And just rather than just talk about, why he's so good, let me just show you the numbers. These are the three main archers in the game. You have the Tox for Greek, you have the Chariot Archer for Egypt, and you have the Arcus for Atlantean. Overall, these two, the Tox and the Arcus, have a bonus versus infantry. They have a 1.25 multiplier. The Chariot Archer has nothing. The Chariot Archer has more speed in terms of, let me just find it here for you guys. I think I must have hidden that cell, but regardless. Oh, right here. So the Chariot Archer has 5 speed, and it has 20 range. But its overall stats are much, much weaker. The Tox has the lowest range, and the lowest, well, second lowest speed, but he has significantly better stats overall. So he has the highest DPS per cost of any archer. He has the highest DPS per pop of all the archers. He has the highest HP per cost. He's tied with the Arcus for HP per pop. And these two, while they're not that important, he still has pretty much just overall the best stats. So if we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, who has the highest DPS per cost? It's the Toxite. Who has the highest DPS per pop? It's the Toxite. Who has the highest HP per cost? It's the Tox. HP per pop, it's tied right here. Hack HP per cost and Pierce HP per cost, it's the Tox. And on top of this, on top of the fact that he has the best archer, it's also increased by Hades' bonuses. So Hades has some of the best late game in the game as a result of this, right? The Chariot Archer, I'm not saying is a terrible unit, but it has mobility and it has range. But the issue is in head-on fights where you're trying to eliminate your opponent's front line, the Greek Archer can do it better than anyone else. So that gives Hades a clear win in my books. He's just good in every age. Next thing I want to talk about is the third best god in the game, which in my opinion right now is Odin. So Odin has some tough matchups. Mainly he's not that great against Egyptian, Set, and maybe Isis, but I think he's a powerhouse versus Greek. And he's very, very decent versus Atlantean as well. For example, versus Greek, he can kind of just take over the entire map with his raiding cavalry. The fact that his raiding cavalry are 6 speed, and the fastest unit that Greek have in H2 are 5.5 speed, allows for that as well. And then let's say that he's running into some trouble where, you know, he's getting pressured. He also has a great bonus for Great Hunt, which allows him to get extra food in his base. He also has a bonus on top of that, which allows him to gather that food faster. He has 2 ravens, which can see the entire map. And overall, he just has a very nice kit. He has the best minor gods, I think, which he can go Skadi, he can go Njord, which is broken right now. And then he can go Ragnarok with Baldur as well. So overall, Odin's been very, very strong for the longest time. I don't think he's insanely busted right now, but I think he's definitely S tier. So now that we talked about the best gods in the game, let's talk about the worst. And in my opinion, the absolute worst god in the game is Ra. I was talking to you guys about the Egyptian units, in my opinion, are just not strong at all. The reason why Set is here, and the reason why Isis is doing okay, is also because they both get access to Anubis, they get access to Thoth, and they get access to Nephthys. If they didn't have access to those 3 minor gods, I think they would be in this category as well. Ra doesn't get access to any of those things, and so Ra is just fighting with almost pure Egyptian units, and Egyptian units are not as good as their Greek counterparts, in my opinion. Let me just give you guys another example, okay? Let's go back to this spreadsheet for a second, and let's go to range units, right? I'm going to give you a couple examples. I just want to, I want to showcase numbers rather than just talk in words. So let's look at the Slinger and look at the Peltis. This is the exact same class of unit. They're both counter archers, right? Did I not finish this? Just give me 1 second. Alright, I unfortunately deleted this because I thought I had it done, but the Slinger and the Peltis, that was one example I was going to give you. The Peltis is better across the board, and it's cheaper than the Slinger, right? Now, Egyptian units are meant to be cheaper, but weaker. And Greek units are meant to be more expensive, but stronger. In this case, the Peltis is cheaper than the Egyptian Slinger, which is the same class of unit. It's a counter archer, but it's also stronger too, which in my opinion doesn't fit with the Civ design. Another thing I want to show you is let's look, for example, I was going to show you Peltis for Slinger, but let's look at another one. Let's look at the Axeman. Right? The Axeman is the Egyptian counter infantry. And let's look at the I don't know how to say this properly. Hypopist. This is the Greek counter infantry. Okay, so these are both the same class of units, Greek and Egyptian. Okay, cost-wise, this makes sense. The Greek one is more expensive. It's at 85 versus 70, so that makes sense. But look at the first thing. The multiplier is 5x versus 4x. Okay, and here's the part that really skews everything. The HP per cost is better on the Greek one. The HP per pop is better on the Greek one. The hack HP per cost is better on the Greek one. And the pierce HP per cost is better on the Greek one. And now I just want to do the DPS. Okay, I should have done this earlier. I thought I did. I'm sorry. I don't want to restart the video now because I already started talking. So let's go back to it. Alright, so the DPS per cost is, this one is tending to the Egyptian one, so it's better here. But essentially this doesn't really matter as it's a counter infantry, right? So it's not, this is not taking into consideration the multiplier. If you take into consideration the multiplier, I believe it's around the same, or it's roughly around the same. So there's another example. I think just the Greek units are overall better than the Egyptian units. This one is not terrible. The Slinger, the counter archer one that I was going to talk about earlier, that one is a little bit better of a example to show. But anyways, moving on, because there's a lot to do. I personally think Ra is the worst god in the game at the moment. He definitely needs something to help him out. Another thing to talk about is Ra used to be a god which you could, farm with, right? You cast your rain god power, you would farm in the safety of your town center, and you would have generally more food than the other civs. But the issue is in Retold, as opposed to the original game, there's hunt all over the map. So if Ra is locked into his base and he's farming away, which has a cost to it, his opponents can just can hunt all over the map and be okay. And they can even come out ahead on top of that. So his farming bonus is kind of negated by the fact that there's so much food on the maps now. So once again, I would put Ra at the very bottom here. The second worst god in the game, in my opinion, is Gaia. So, like I said, it's aggressive gods are dominating right now, and Gaia doesn't really have that much in terms of aggression. Her age 1 god power is basically just trees. She has bonuses which lend to a more economic style. And these things are, while they're not terrible, but they take time to figure out. So she's not doing that well right now, in my opinion. Another major issue with Gaia is she doesn't have access to Hyperion. And Hyperion is one of the reasons why Oranos and Kronos are doing a lot better. It's, in my opinion, one of the top age 3 god powers in the game, which is Chaos, which locks your army in place, locks your opponent's army in place and makes them fight each other. On top of that, they get Satyrs, which are a very, very strong myth unit. Sorry. So, I think Gaia is, in my opinion, at the bottom tier as well. Now looking at the A tier. And like I said, Greek overall don't really need to abuse anything in the game. They're just overall very strong. They're very good. They have great units. They have a decent economy. They have good god powers. They can take map control because they can advance so early. They can grab their heroes really fast. I just think both of these guys are A tier right now. And they're A tier, not even, like I said, they don't, like, for example, Set needs to abuse Plague of Serpents. He needs to abuse his Meteor. He needs to abuse Scorpion Men. If he doesn't abuse those things and his animals, per se, he's not going to be able to stay in S tier. The fact that he has to abuse these things and stay in S tier is probably going to be his downfall. He's probably going to be moved down to A tier in the next coming patches. But I think these guys are only going to go up because I think overall their kit is much better. They don't need to rely on abuse. They're just strong in every age. They have great units and they're strong in every age. And then on top of this, we have Isis. In my opinion, Isis is like a mini set without animals. I think she's really strong because she has Plague of Serpents, Nephthys, and Thoth. And then she has Prosperity, which is a very good bonus. Age 1 God Power, which gives her tons of gold. And the reason why this is good is, unlike Ra, which has to rain and has to have farms around his base, you have to put money and effort into doing that. Casting Prosperity is one click away from getting a ton of gold. And that early gold that you get can be used to allow your build to be more versatile. You can go into many different options. You can go to a fast heroic, you can add an extra monument, you can take an extra town center. You can even get like her unique tech, which is Flood of the Nile, is essentially one extra villager on food. You can get that super early with Prosperity. So there's a lot of little lot of things that you can do with this Age 1 God Power. She also has the monument to prevent God Powers from hitting her. While the monument radius kind of sucks, but you can put like 2 or 3 of them together and then you can make a nice little circle around your base, protect you from this overpowered Age 4 God Powers like Meteor Strike or Earthquake or Tornado. So like, she has good opportunities there. I think Isis is going to be better than Set once her broken stuff gets nerfed, because she has other things that she can play with. However, I think her army itself is not that strong. She has to also, like Set, rely on some of the broken things in the game. And then now talking about the B tier, and this is a strange one because I think these gods here that I'm about to throw down, which is Uranus, Kronos, and Loki, these gods have the potential to be A tier or even S tier. Like some of the games I've been playing with Loki, like you can get a lot of units out on the map really fast, and you can start being aggressive with them too. On top of that, like he has a lot of bonuses, like Heimdall, which is his minor god, has some of the best unique techs in the game, especially for Age 2, which is, I don't know how to say it pronounced properly, but one of them is you can get 20% reduction on training time, and that 20% reduction on training time also applies to aging up. So you can get your villagers coming out 20% faster, your military units coming out 20% faster, and same thing with your age up. Uranus has access to Shockwave, which in my opinion is the strongest Age 1 God Power in the game, except for Freyr's Boar, but I think they're both kind of comparable. I think Shockwave is so good early on, and if you can get a good use out of it, like shockwaving your opponent's villagers or shockwaving your opponent's army, you can single-handedly change the course of the game just with that Age 1 God Power. So he has a lot of benefits to him. Another thing is Sky Passages, which are being slept on in my opinion right now. Sky Passages are so good for the safety of your villagers. Like you can hunt all around the map, throw in Sky Passages wherever you want, and then you don't need to worry about ever being raided, because you can just hop back into your Sky Passages and traverse the entire map. And this can, not only is this defensive, but you can use this aggressively too. Like imagine taking a Vil, putting him on the corner of the map and building a Sky Passage. You can teleport your army from your base to your opponent's base like instantaneously. And usually that's something that you need a God Power for. So it's a really strong bonus, and I think it needs time to be figured out. Kronos as well, like Kronos has some, when I was playing Kronos against a couple players, I thought there's potential for him to even be S tier. Like Prometheans are so strong right now. I attacked a Promethean with a Sphinx and I lost 1-on-1, which is kind of crazy because it's not similar in costs. So he has double the myth units when he advances to the next stage. He also has manners which are speeding up his construction. So imagine putting like 2 or 3 manners on your town center and speeding that up. Like it's a massive bonus. And once people really figure out his timings and figure out how to play him, I feel like he could even be S tier. Same thing with Uranus. I think they have a lot of potential, which people, including myself, haven't really figured out how to tap into yet. So the B tier could technically be the S tier if the game was untouched for the next 2 months and people figured out how to use them properly. But that's just my opinion. I'm not entirely sure about that just yet as well. In terms of the C tier, I think Thor, this is where Thor comes in. Now, Thor is a strange one because you'd think that a god that has the ability to get a +2 or +3 vil advantage, like in the archaic age, should be like the strongest god in the game. But the issue with it is the meta is so aggressive right now, and especially Greek, they're able to harass him so quickly with their H1 and H2 hero and their myth unit that he gets pushed off immediately off of Hunt. He gets pushed off sometimes even off of chicken and berries, which makes him having to gather sheep underneath his TC, right? So that's one of the issues with Thor. Like, it's all about his matchups, right? If he's playing an Egyptian god, which Egyptian gods will allow you to kind of, you know, take your time and advance to the next stage and not be bullied off the map, unless you're playing a Nubite-based aggressive strategy or something like that. That Thor can thrive in that environment, right? But versus Greek, who push him off of Hunt, push him off of Gold even at times, he really struggles there. I think some of the best matchups for Thor are actually versus Atlantean, especially like Thor versus Uranus. Like, Thor can do very well there, but right now I just feel like he's getting bullied a little bit too much, so it's a little bit tough for him. And last but not least, it's Freyr. Now Freyr, I'm not too sure yet because I haven't really had much game time with him. But I think he has a lot of bonuses, nice bonuses rather, but he definitely needs a little bit more time. I would categorize him in this category right here with Gaia and Ra. I think he just needs a little bit more time yet. I think he's better than these two gods primarily because he has some more offensive god powers, and he also has some better timings because he can hit a nice mid-game timing with getting cheaper upgrades and stuff. So yeah, I think overall that's my tier list. That's what I think. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know how much of it I'm right on. I did ask a lot of different pro players about their opinion on it. Just to give you an example, like Soup, which is a friend of mine, he said he would put Zeus and Poseidon in all S tier, right? He thinks the Greek are just S tier, and then you have the rest. But then I have another friend who would say that, you know, he thinks Odin is the best god in the game. So at this point, things are not truly figured out. However, I think essentially this is how I see it at the moment, and most people would agree with this list, the ones that I've asked at least. And then also there's a cool site that somebody linked me to. I think it was Keen Flame. These are the actual win rates on ladder right now, so it's a little bit different than my tier list. Odin is the best, highest win rate god at the moment, with Poseidon following in second, Set in third. Then you have Loki, Zeus. Hades is actually under 50% win rate, which is strange. But remember, when I'm talking about my tier list, I'm talking about the highest level of play, like at least top 20, if not top 10. So this is what I think it looks like at the very highest of the ladder. Alright guys, that's my tier list. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you disagree or agree. Yeah, see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.